Find the percentage of data items in a normal distribution that lie below z equals 0.8. Okay? Alright, so the best way to do these, I always think, is to draw a picture of a normal curve. Okay, so here's your normal curve. And mine never come out perfectly symmetrical, but I just need a sketch here. Okay, and we know that in a normal curve, that's standardized, because we're talking about z-scores. The middle is 0, and then we have 3 standard deviations out to each side. Okay, and remember that a normal curve is symmetric, and 100% of the data is below the entire normal curve. Okay, so first thing I need to find is z equals 0.8. Well, remember that in a normal curve, each one of these is a standard deviation. So if I'm looking for z equals 0.8, that would be, just about here, right? Okay, so 0.8 is right around here. Can't draw straight. And I want below 0.8, which would be this part of my curve. Okay, now if you look in your textbook, there is a table of areas of a standard normal distribution, and you use it whenever you have numbers that aren't the 0, 1, 2, 3, that we can use the 68, 95, 99.7 rule. Okay, and if you look at the table in your book, which is right here, okay, you can see that the table in your book gives area to the left of z. And there's 2 pages to the table. You have negative z's and positive z values. And in this problem, we're working with z equals 0.8. So I'm going to look up z equals 0.8 on my table. And 0.80, so it would be the first column, which is 0.7881. Okay, so let me show you what that means. According to the table, area to the left of 0.8 to the left is 0.7881. And that's this area. Okay, and sure enough, that's what we're looking for in this problem, because they're asking me for the percent that lies below 0.8. Below 0.8 would be to the left. And all I have to do to finish this problem is to write that as a percentage. And remember, in a percentage, you move over 2 decimal places. So my answer would be 78.81. Okay, so here's my next question. Find the percentage of data items in a normal distribution that lie below z equals negative 0.4. Okay, so again, I'm going to draw myself a picture. Normal curve. We've got a z-score, which means I'm going to label this with z values. 0 in the middle, 1, 2, 3, negative 1, negative 2, negative 3. Okay, and I got to look for z equals negative 0.4. Well, negative 0.4 is going to be right around here. And I want data below 0.4, so here's 0.4, and below is to the left. Okay. All right, since this is a z-score, it's negative. I'm going to look it up in my table in my book, and if I look up z equals negative 0.40, the book tells me that the area to the left of this data point is 0.3446. And this number as a percentage is 34.46%. So 34.46% of the data lies below negative 0.4. Find the percentage of data items in a normal distribution that lie above z equals 1.4. Okay, so hopefully you're getting the pattern here. Always draw your normal curve. We've got z-scores, so I'm going to label it with z-scores. And you don't have to write the numbers every time. I sometimes write them, sometimes don't. All right. I want z equals 1.4, which is right about here. But this time I want above. Above would be to the right. Okay, the last two problems we did was below, which was to the left. So above, bigger than 1.4, would be to the right. Okay, so I have a z-score. I'm going to look up my z-score of 1.4 in my table. And remember, the table gives me the area to the left of the point that I look up. So when I look up 1.4 and it says 0.9192, that's the area to the left. But I want the area to the right. Well, this is where I have to remember that under the entire normal curve, the area is 100% or 1. So if I want to find out how much is over here, I just have to take 1 minus this part. So 1 minus 0.9192, which is 0.0808. And that in percent is 8.08%, which is left for that part. And you can check 0.9192 plus 0.0808 make up the 100%, the 1 that is under the normal curve. Find the percentage of data items in a normal distribution that lie above z equals negative 0.7. Well, can you guess the first step? I hope so. The first step is to draw a picture. The picture will always help you with these. And we know zero's in the middle. 1, 2, 3, negative 1, negative 2, negative 3. Okay? And I want z equals negative 0.7. Okay, that'll be right around here. Negative 0.7. And the question asks for the percent of data above this. So above would be to the right. So I want this part. Alright, so I look up negative 0.7 in my table. And when I look up negative 0.7, remember it gives me area to the left. This is the left side. And if I look up negative 0.7, it says 0.2420. Well, that's not the side I want. So again, I have to invoke the rule that under the whole normal curve, we have 100% of the data, or 1, minus the part I don't want, which is 0.2420. And I get the part I want, which is 0.758. And if I convert that to a percentage, 75.8%. Okay, and again, you can check. You can add these two numbers and you see that you're going to get 1. Find the percentage of data items in a normal distribution that lie between z equals 0.3 and z equals 2.1. Alright, so let me draw a picture. This one seems to be a little bit more complicated. Again, I'm not being very careful about drawing this perfectly or anything. I know that zero's there. 1, 2, 3, negative 1, negative 2, negative 3. Okay. I'm going to locate the z values they tell me, which is 0.3, which is about here. And 2.1, well, kind of here. And I want the data that is between. Well, data that would be between would be this part. Okay. All right. Well, let me go to my table. Again, when you're given a z-value, look it up in the table and work from there. Okay, so I'm going to look up 2.1 in my table. Doesn't matter which one you look up first, I'll look up 2.1. And remember, when you look up 2.1, it's going to give you the area to the left of 2.1. So all this area all the way up to 2.1, and it says that it's 0.9821. Okay? Now I'm going to look up 0.3 in my table. And remember, when I look up 0.3 in my table, it's going to give me the area to the left of 0.3, which is this part. Well, if you look up 0.3, you get 0.6179. Okay, so how do I get just this part? Well, hopefully you can see that we're going to subtract. We're going to subtract 0.9821 minus this piece, which is 0.6179, and we get 0.3642, and since they want it in percent, that's 36.42%. Find the percentage of data items in a normal distribution that lie between z equals -1.2 and 2.1. So again, draw myself a picture. Here's 0, 1, 2, 3, -1, -2, -3. -1.2 is kind of about here. 2.1, kind of about here. Notice I don't have to be very precise about those. And I want the area between, which is that area. Okay, again, I've got z-scores. When you have z-scores, look them up in the table. Alright, so I'm going to start by looking up 2.1. Again, it doesn't matter which one I look up first. When I look up 2.1, remember, it gives me the area to the left of 2.1, which we saw in the last problem, is 0.9821. And if I look up -1.2, it gives me the area to the left of -1.2, which is 0.1151. And again, hopefully you can see from the picture that we're going to have to subtract 0.9821 minus 0.1151, and we get 0.8670, which is 86.7%.